Two people walk into the same dealership on the same day. Same age, same income, same credit score. They both point at the exact same car, same trim level, same color, same sticker price at $30,000. They both sit down across from the finance manager and they both drive off that same lot within 20 minutes of each other. From the outside, everything about their situation is identical. But 10 years from now, one of them is going to be sitting on a financial asset worth real money, and the other one is going to have spent over $60,000 on cars they never actually owned. Not a single dollar of equity. Nothing to show for a decade of monthly payments except a really good memory of that new car smell. And here is the part that is going to bother you. The one who ends up with nothing after 10 years is probably going to feel like they made the smarter choice for most of that time, at least until the numbers catch up with them. This is the story of two people, same starting line, completely different financial destinations, and the one decision that created the gap between them. Stick with me because somewhere around the 6-year mark of this story there is a flip that almost nobody sees coming. And if you are currently leasing a car or thinking about it, what happens at year 6 might genuinely change what you do next. If this is your first time on this channel, hit subscribe right now because every week we do exactly this. We run the actual numbers, cut through the sales pitch, and show you what the math actually looks like when nobody is trying to sell you something. I am David Marshall and let us get into it. Meet Jordan and Alex, both 30 years old, both earning $55,000 a year, both live in the same city, commute roughly the same distance, and both decided this was the year they were getting a new car. They walked into a dealership, both zeroed in on the same $30,000 sedan, and then they made two very different decisions at the finance desk. Jordan signed a 36-month lease. Alex took a 60-month loan at 6% interest. Now on paper, on that very first day, Jordan looks like the obvious winner. Jordan's monthly payment comes in at $299. Alex's monthly payment is $522. That is a $223 difference every single month. And when you're sitting in that dealership chair, $223 a month feels significant. That is a gym membership, groceries for a week, a couple of dinners out. Jordan walks out of that dealership feeling light, feeling like they played the system. Alex walks out writing a check in their head every month and wondering if they should have just done the lease. This is what I call the day one illusion, and it is one of the most effective psychological traps in all of consumer finance. The monthly payment is not the number that matters, but it is the only number most people are focused on when they are sitting in that chair. The dealer knows this. The manufacturer knows this. The entire auto finance industry is architected around one psychological principle. Make the monthly payment feel manageable while keeping the actual total cost of the agreement as invisible as possible. There is a reason car commercials never lead with the total cost of ownership over 5 years. There is a reason the finance manager at a dealership always asks you, what monthly payment are you comfortable with, before they talk about anything else. That question is not about your budget. It is about anchoring your brain to the smallest number in the transaction so everything above it feels like a negotiating win. You walk in thinking about $30,000 and walk out celebrating a $299 payment without ever calculating what you actually agreed to pay in total or what you are actually getting for that money. Most people do not realize that the monthly payment and the effective cost of a financial decision are two completely different numbers. And the gap between them, measured not in months but in years, is exactly where wealth gets quietly destroyed for millions of Americans who are doing everything right on paper. But let us not get ahead of ourselves. Let us run the actual numbers from the beginning because the story gets interesting before it gets complicated. Month 1 through month 36, 3 years, Jordan is paying $299 a month. Alex is paying $522 a month. Jordan has $223 in extra cash every single month compared to Alex. At the end of 3 years, Jordan has spent a total of $10,764 in lease payments. Alex has spent $18,792 in loan payments. That is roughly a $8,000 difference in total cash out of pocket over the same 3 years for the same car. Jordan is looking at this scoreboard and feeling very good about the decision. Jordan spent $8,000 less, drove the same car, and never had to deal with a major repair because the vehicle was under full manufacturer warranty the entire time. From where Jordan is standing at the end of year 3, the lease looks like the financially intelligent choice. Clean, simple, low payment, no repair risk, $8,000 ahead. And this is exactly the moment when the story starts to turn. Because Alex just made the final payment on month 60. Wait, no, we are only at month 36. Alex still has 24 months of payments left, but here's what Alex has that Jordan does not. Alex has been building equity in that vehicle this entire time. Every single one of those $522 payments has been doing two things simultaneously. Paying interest to the lender, yes, but also reducing the loan balance and building ownership in the car. At the 36-month mark, Alex's loan balance is approximately $12,800. The car's market value, accounting for standard depreciation on a 3-year-old sedan, is roughly $18,000 to $19,000. Alex is not underwater on this loan. Alex has real equity in a real asset. Jordan has zero equity, not because Jordan made bad payments. Jordan made every payment perfectly and on time, but a lease payment is not building equity in anything. It is covering the cost of the vehicle's depreciation plus interest plus the dealer's margin during the lease term. When that 36-month lease ends, Jordan has three options: buy the car at the pre-agreed residual value, walk away and hand the keys back, or sign a new lease and start the conveyor belt over again. This is the residual pivot, and it is the moment most people on a lease either do not think about carefully or do not think about at all when they are signing the original paperwork. Here is what those three options actually look like in practice. Option 1, Jordan buys the car at the end of the lease. The residual value was set at $16,500 when the lease was signed. To buy the car, Jordan needs to either pay $16,500 in cash, which very few people do, or go finance $16,500, which means Jordan now has a loan on a 3-year-old car with 36,000 miles on it. Jordan did not avoid a loan, Jordan delayed it. Option 2, Jordan walks away, hands the keys back, no asset, nothing to trade in, starting from zero again on the next vehicle. Option 3, Jordan signs a new 36-month lease on the 2027 model because the dealer makes it incredibly easy to just roll right into the next one. Same $299 to $320 a month. New car smell, back on the conveyor belt. Most people choose option 3. The data on this is consistent. The majority of people who lease return to lease again because the process feels frictionless and the monthly payment stays comfortable. And this is exactly how a person can spend 10 years making car payments and end up with absolutely zero automotive equity at the end of it. Now let us get to the moment I told you about at the beginning, the flip. We are at year 6. Jordan has now completed 2 full 36-month leases. Total spent in lease payments over 6 years is approximately $21,528 plus any fees at lease end. And we are going to talk about those fees in just a minute because they are real money that most people do not factor in when they are comparing leasing to buying. Alex just made the final payment on the 60-month loan in month 60, year 5, which means for the last 12 months Alex has been driving a fully paid-off car with zero monthly payment. Let that land for a second. For an entire year, Alex has been pocketing $522 a month that used to go to the lender. That is $6,264 that stayed in Alex's account over those 12 months. And Alex's car, now 6 years old with roughly 72,000 miles on it, still has a private party market value in the range of $10,000 to $13,000 depending on condition. This is the scoreboard at year 6. Jordan total spent on cars over 6 years, approximately $21,528. Total automotive assets owned, $0. Alex total spent on car loan over 5 years, approximately $31,320. Total automotive assets owned, a vehicle worth $10,000 to $13,000 with zero remaining payments. Alex's effective cost after subtracting the asset value is somewhere between $18,000 and $21,000. Jordan's effective cost is $21,528 with nothing to show for it. The person who was behind on cash flow for 5 years just crossed in front. That is the flip, and it is going to keep compounding in Alex's favor from here. Think about what Alex's financial life looks like in month 61 compared to Jordan's. Alex has eliminated a $522 monthly obligation that had been a fixed line in the budget for 5 full years. That does not just feel good. It creates real monthly cash flow flexibility that did not exist before. Alex can now redirect that $522 toward savings, toward investing, toward building a real emergency fund, toward paying down other debt, or toward whatever financial goal comes next. The car that cost $522 a month for 5 years is now costing essentially nothing month to month except insurance, fuel, and maintenance. That is a completely different financial position than Jordan's, where $299 to $320 a month is still leaving the account permanently every single month with no end date in sight. Most people do not realize the flip happens this quietly. There is no dramatic moment, no announcement, just the math doing what math does when you give it enough time. But before we go further, I want to do something this channel always does and that a lot of finance content skips. I want to pull back the curtain on the hidden costs of leasing that never show up in the monthly payment comparison, because running the actual numbers means running all of them. The first hidden cost is mileage caps. The average lease in the United States allows somewhere around 10,000 to 15,000 miles per year. The industry average sits around 13,500. If you drive more than that, and a lot of Americans do, you're paying an overage charge at lease end that typically runs between 10 and 25 cents per excess mile. If Jordan drives 15,000 miles a year and the lease cap is 12,000, that is 9,000 excess miles over 3 years at 15 cents per mile. That is $1,350 due at lease return. A surprise Bill Jordan did not budget for. The second hidden cost is wear and tear definitions. Lease agreements define what is considered normal wear and tear and what triggers a fee at return. Small door dings, minor interior stains, any tire wear beyond what the lessor considers acceptable, windshield chips, all of these can generate fees at return that real lessees do not find out about until they are standing in a parking lot with an inspector. These fees typically add another $300 to $800 to the total cost of the lease experience for the average driver. The third hidden cost is the disposition fee. When Jordan walks away from the lease without buying or releasing, most manufacturers charge a disposition fee for processing the returned vehicle. This fee ranges from $300 to $500 depending on the manufacturer. It is buried in the lease agreement, and most people do not notice it until they are already committed. Add those three categories together, and Jordan's real out-of-pocket cost over a 36-month lease is not $10,764. It is closer to $12,764 to $13,264 depending on driving habits, which means the gap between Jordan and Alex's costs at year 3 was never actually $8,000. It was closer to $6,000. And the psychological win Jordan felt was based on an incomplete picture of what the lease actually cost. This is the monthly payment trap in action. You optimize for the payment you can see and miss the costs you cannot. Now let me address the maintenance argument because it is real and it deserves an honest answer. One of the strongest cases for leasing is that you are almost always covered by the full manufacturer warranty for the entire lease term. If something goes wrong with a leased vehicle during a 36-month lease and the car had low miles at signing, the manufacturer typically covers it. That is genuinely valuable, especially on vehicles with lower reliability ratings. Alex, on the other hand, is now in year 6 and 7 with a car that is out of warranty and could face repair bills at any point. Post-warranty repair costs on a typical sedan average somewhere between $1,200 and $1,800 per year for maintenance and unexpected repairs combined. Some years are cheaper. Some years a single repair event costs $2,500. This unpredictability is real, and it is one of the honest arguments in favor of leasing. But here is what the math actually shows when you factor in those repair costs. Even adding $1,500 per year in repair and maintenance costs to Alex's position in year 6 through 10, that is an additional $7,500 over 5 years. Alex's effective cost still ends up lower than Jordan's total lease expenditure over the same period when you account for the asset Alex owns and the payment-free months Alex has been accumulating since month 61. Because here is what Jordan is doing from year 5 through year 10. Jordan is still on the conveyor belt, still at $299 to $340 per month on a third or fourth lease, still building zero equity, still paying the disposition fee and the mileage overage and the wear and tear charges at the end of each cycle. The total cost of that decade of driving for Jordan lands somewhere between $42,000 and $48,000 in real dollars spent, with zero automotive asset at the end of it. Alex's total cost of that same decade, including loan payments, including estimated maintenance and repairs, and subtracting the resale value of a 10-year-old vehicle that still has private party worth, lands somewhere in the range of $28,000 to $33,000 effective cost, with the option to sell, trade, or keep a vehicle they fully own. The wealth gap between these two people, created entirely by one decision at one dealership, is somewhere between $15,000 and $25,000 over 10 years, not because Alex is smarter, not because Alex earned more, not because Alex sacrificed a better lifestyle. Because Alex was building equity in an asset while Jordan was renting a piece of something every 36 months and calling it a financial decision. And this is the part of the conversation where I want to be fair because the answer is almost never a simple one-size-fits-all conclusion. So let me tell you when the lease math actually does make sense, because there are real exceptions and pretending otherwise would make this channel exactly like the content we are trying to be different from. Exception 1 is legitimate business use with tax deductions. If you are self-employed or run a business and you can document vehicle use as a business expense, a lease can be deducted in ways that change the effective cost math significantly. A business owner leasing a vehicle and writing off a meaningful portion of the payment as a deductible expense is working with a different set of numbers than a W-2 employee. If this is your situation, talk to a CPA before you make a decision in either direction. Exception 2 is high-end luxury or performance vehicles with historically brutal post-warranty repair costs. If you're looking at a vehicle where out-of-warranty repairs average $3,000 to $5,000 per year, where parts are expensive and dealer labor rates are high, the calculus shifts. Staying in a lease cycle on a high-maintenance luxury brand can sometimes be cheaper than owning one long-term. This is a specific category of vehicle and a specific type of buyer. It is not the average car purchase situation. Exception 3 is the disciplined investor who takes that $223 monthly savings from the lower lease payment and automatically invests 100% of it every single month into a broad market index fund for the entire lease period and every lease renewal period. If that discipline holds perfectly for 10 years, the compounding return on that invested difference starts to compete seriously with the equity argument for buying. The problem with this exception is that research on actual financial behavior shows that most people do not maintain that discipline consistently. The savings from the lower payment get absorbed into lifestyle spending within a few months. Lifestyle creep is one of the most reliable forces in consumer finance. But if you are genuinely the exception, if you have the automation set up and the discipline to leave it alone, the math gets more interesting than the simple ownership versus lease comparison suggests. For everyone else, and that is the majority of people watching this video, the actual numbers over 10 years consistently favor building equity over the eternal payment cycle. Residual value is real, depreciation is real, equity is real, and the wealth gap that gets created by 10 years of choosing monthly convenience over long-term asset ownership is real money that could have been sitting in your net worth column instead of disappearing into a lease residual that somebody else profits from. Let me bring this home because we have covered a lot of ground today. The car payment feels like a utility bill. It feels like something you just budget for the way you budget for electricity, but it is not a utility. A utility gives you something you consume and are done with. A car is an asset that either builds equity in your hands or builds it in somebody else's hands depending on the decision you make at the finance desk. Running the actual numbers means understanding that the monthly payment is not the cost. The monthly payment is just the cost you can see. The real cost is the equity you either accumulate or forfeit over the life of the decision. The real cost is the wealth gap that grows quietly in the background while you're focused on keeping your monthly budget comfortable. Most people do not realize that the monthly payment trap is not really about the payment at all. It is about training yourself to optimize for short-term comfort at the expense of long-term equity. And once you learn to see that pattern, you start seeing it everywhere, not just at the car dealership. I want to end every video on this channel with the same reminder because I think it is the most honest framing for why any of this matters. Money is not the goal, money is oxygen. You do not live for oxygen, but without it, none of the things that genuinely matter in your life are possible. The wealth gap between Jordan and Alex 10 years from now is not about a car. It is about how much financial oxygen Alex has that Jordan does not. It is about what Alex can do at 40 that Jordan cannot. Not because Alex was smarter or luckier or earned more, but because Alex understood that renting a piece of something and building equity in something are two completely different financial trajectories, even when they look identical at the starting line. Build your oxygen supply, make the decision with the full numbers in front of you, not just the monthly payment. If this video helped you see your car decision differently, share it with one person who is at a dealership right now or about to be. It might be the most valuable 5 minutes you give them this year. And if you are not subscribed yet, do it now because next week we are going inside the real cost of buying versus renting your home and the number that finally ends that debate once and for all. I am David Marshall. I will see you then.